Is holding 4 weapons inconceivable? I don't think so, guys. I think 4 weapons is something that Bungie is going to try to propose. Now, I know some of you are like, that sounds crazy. But from a PC perspective, not really. If you play Fortnite, you know exactly that you have a lot of keys there that are mapped to all your different various weapons, and at the press of a button, you immediately get there. Lo and behold, a lot of people that are going to the summit, guys, a lot of them are PC players. Yeah, there's some console players going, but a lot of them are PC players. I really think a 4th weapon slot will be talked about, at least, in the least, and maybe they even have some videos or some gameplay showing people swapping between the weapons. Now, for a controller, it'll be a little different. Honestly, you know, you've seen them talk about adding an emote wheel. This will open up our D-pad, which your D-pad can then be used to pull out weapons, you know, the hotkey certain weapons. And man, that adds a whole new element to the game. Now let's talk about that real quick. The obvious comparison is between the old weapon system in Destiny 1, the primary, special, heavy, in comparison to a potential 4 weapon system. Now, again, entirely speculation, but we already know that they're saying that they're going to make some changes to the weapon system. And to me, honestly, guys, I think they're going to have to, because Bungie, they need to market the expansions coming up in some way or fashion. And I honestly think they're going to market it based on these weapon system changes, okay? Now, let me compare the two real quick. The old weapon system and a potential 4 weapon system. So the old weapon system, you know, you had your primary, your special, and your heavy. Your heavy was picked up once every game, and you played off of that. Your special itself was normally something that contradicted whatever your primary was. You know, a lot of times I would rock a scout rifle or maybe a pulse rifle with a shotgun. I had something to always cover my long range and mid range with my primary, and then of course my special weapon was for anything up close. Whereas like sometimes, you know, you rock a last word with a sniper, last word for up close, sniper for everything out far. And so those were the way we used to do things in D1. You seem to choose a weapon that would contradict itself. You know, not a lot of times you would rock a sniper with a scout rifle. You know what I mean? Now, a 4 weapon system. What element would we get from this? So obviously there's some weapons in the power slot that I can never imagine being moved into a special weapon slot or that 4th weapon slot. And that is weapons like Legend of Acreus. That's weapons like Colony. And so the weapons that I see that would be moved to the 4th weapon slots would be probably a mass majority of your power weapons right now. And they would be okay there, honestly. A lot of the shotguns are really strong, and and a lot of the snipers are decent, especially once they remove the flinch, maybe even grenade launchers. But see, if you limit the amount of special that you have with those weapons, it won't get as out of hand. You know, D1, it got out of hand when you were able to rush in with a Matador, kill someone, and spawn back up with 13, 14, 15 bullets. You know what I'm saying? And to push again. But if you were always to have 1 magazine, of course you can pick up ammo, but if you were always just able to have 1 magazine size, and of course this varies depending on the weapon type, but if you were only able to have 1 magazine size to carry around with you, then I really think that would be okay. Now this to me is a great median to what we saw in D1. You know, D1 had the special change where you lost all your special ammo upon death, and so to me this is a good in between those two. You don't lose all your special, but then again you can't tote around a shit ton of ammo. Now this opens up another element. The power slot, the slot that is supposed to be uber fucking powerful. This is the slot that we go ham with power weapons. See, right now, there's a lot of weapons that are in the power slot that in my eyes, I just don't see them as power weapons. They're not. They're not heavy type weapons. They're not sleeper simulant. They're not black spindle, okay? They're not just these overwhelming raise lighter type weapons. They are okay, but they are not power weapons in my eyes, you know? And so in this slot, we can include those crazy conceptual weapons without any limitations to Crucible or anything. This will be a slot that we say, hey, we can get fucking crazy with it. And this slot may even be a slot that Bungie locks out of PvP entirely. maybe be a slot that people say to themselves, all right, this is too powerful for PvP and Crucible, and this will be the PvE only slot to go ham. Or, you know, I'll just take the fuck it approach and just say fuck it, let them all have it, you know what I mean? And maybe just, you know, limit some of the power ammo that spawns. Of course, you won't be able to let power spawn the way it's spawning and everybody's running around with tactical nukes. It would just be insane. But I really think that a 4-weapon slot system is not a crazy idea. We have buttons on a controller right now that can be utilized in such a way. Matter of fact, I would love to map a lot of my weapons to my D-pad specifically to where I can immediately pull them out without having to do this bullshit where I'm holding triangle or Y, and then, you know, sometimes I double click and I don't go back to my primary. Instead, I go back to my special, my energy weapon instead, and it just feels clunky. The fact that I would be able to map on my D-pad for a controller to a specific weapon would be amazing. And again, having 4 weapons would honestly make things pretty wild, man. I mean, it would throw another level of skill there. And everybody keeps talking about wanting to widen the skill gap. Well, there you go, man. Now we can widen it. I think with the right implementation of ammo economy, as well as the ability to introduce super powerful weapons, this could be a great system. And for PC, this wouldn't be difficult at all to implement. About the only problem with all of this is we need a lot more fucking vault space. I mean, we just gotta have it. So outside of that, guys, I think you're looking at an okay from me in terms of a 4-weapon system. Now, the old weapon system from D1, I'm not saying that was terrible. I'm not saying that I wouldn't mind going back to that. But a 4-weapon system to me, it intrigues me. It excites me, and I would really like to see that. And I would also like to see controller support to where we can map things to our D-pad and specifically pull out those weapons on the go, man. I would be really down with that. Fellas, that's my thoughts on it. And I really think this could be huge. And I think it's definitely going to be something Bungie's going to talk about more and more. They've mentioned weapon systems, and I think it's crossed their mind. Out of all of that I just said, the power slot in a 4-weapon system slot excites me the most. The fact that Bungie can get crazy with weapons and introduce some super powerful guns to the game, and again, if they want to lock out that slot from PvP, I would be okay with that, and maybe make a game type or a PvP type where you can go in there with that weapon type, or maybe just make it available in Mayhem, you know, if they're worried about balance issues. And you know, we've come to the conclusion that they can definitely do things separate from PvE to PvP. You saw that from the most recent buffs that they did to certain weapons that they received in PvE, but they didn't receive it in PvP. So there is stuff they can definitely do and keep them separated now. And hopefully that's due to the new engine that they're going with, and so it's easier to go in there and code it out. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming and watching this video, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.
So let's get closer.